The forest around me had become completely silent. No birds, no insects, no wind. Only the sound of my car engine and my own nervous breathing. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. I kept driving, desperately searching for a way out. Then something appeared in the middle of the road. I slammed the brakes. The tires screamed against the dirt. The car skidded sideways and stopped only a few feet away. At first, I thought it was a tree. Then it moved. Slowly. Deliberately. My heart nearly stopped. The thing stood over 12 feet tall. Its skin was pale gray, stretched tightly over an impossibly thin body. Its arms hung almost to the ground. Its head was enormous. And where its face should have been, there was nothing. No eyes. No nose. No mouth. Just smooth skin, like a blank mask made of flesh. The creature tilted its head, studying, and listening. Waiting. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The creature slowly raised one long arm and touched the hood of my car. Instantly, the metal began to rust. Brown corrosion spread across the surface like a disease. Within seconds, the paint peeled away. The metal crumbled. I stared in horror. Then survival instincts took over. I slammed the car into reverse. The vehicle shot backward down the road. The creature remained standing exactly where it was, watching me disappear into the darkness. I drove for nearly 20 minutes, yet somehow I ended up back at the church. Again. The village was waiting for me. Candles still flickered in every window. Villagers stood silently in the streets. As if they had known I would return. The hooded leader stood in front of the church. Motionless. Patient. When I stepped out of the car, he slowly approached. "You've seen one of the guardians," he said. My voice shook. "What was that thing?" The leader smiled beneath his hood. "A servant." "A servant of what?" His smile widened. The watcher. A chill crawled through my entire body. The ground suddenly trembled. At first, it felt like a small earthquake. Then the shaking became stronger. The church bell rang violently. Once. Twice. 3 times. The villagers immediately fell to their knees. The hooded leader raised his arms. "The time has come." A loud crack echoed through the village. The church floor split open. Wood exploded upward. Dust filled the air. The earth beneath the building began collapsing inward. The villagers started chanting louder than before. Their voices blended together into a terrifying wall of sound. The ground continued shaking. Then something emerged. A gigantic hand. Gray. Rotting. Far larger than any human hand. The villagers cheered. Another hand followed. Then a massive shoulder. A head. And finally the rest of the creature pulled itself out from beneath the church. My legs nearly gave out. The thing was enormous. At least 30 feet tall. Its pale body looked ancient. Dead. Its skin hung loosely from its frame. And unlike the guardian creature I had seen earlier, this one had a face. Thousands of faces. Human faces. Covering its body. Men. Women. Children. All frozen in expressions of terror. Some appeared to be screaming, others crying. Others begging. Every face seemed alive, moving slightly beneath the creature's skin. The sight was beyond horrifying. The villagers bowed. "The watcher awakens," they chanted. Then the creature opened its mouth. The sound that came out wasn't a roar. It was voices, thousands of voices speaking at once. Whispers, cries, prayers, screams, every sound layered together. The noise echoed directly inside my skull. I dropped to my knees. The whispers became louder. I could hear individual words. Now, names, dates, fragments of memories, then the visions began. Suddenly, I wasn't standing in Black Hollow anymore. I was seeing the past. The village looked different, newer, alive, children played in the streets. Farmers worked nearby fields. Families laughed, then sickness arrived. People died, one after another. The crops failed, winter came early. Starvation followed. Desperate villagers gathered in the forest and prayed for salvation. Something answered. A massive shadow emerged from the trees, ancient, impossible, hungry, it offered them a deal. Protection in exchange for sacrifice. One soul every year, at exactly 3. The villagers accepted, the sickness disappeared. The crops returned, the village survived, but the cost remained, year after year. Generation after generation, a child, outsider. Someone was always offered, and every victim became part of the Watcher, absorbed forever, growing, larger, stronger, hungrier, the vision ended. I found myself back in the village. Sweat covered my face. The Watcher stared directly at me. For the first time, I realized something terrifying. The boy from earlier hadn't died. Not yet. He had become part of the transformation. The faces covering the Watcher's body weren't decorations. They were victims. Every sacrifice remained trapped inside the creature. Forever. Conscious, forever suffering. Thousands of souls imprisoned within a single monstrous body. The realization made me sick. Then, I heard a familiar voice, the young boy's voice, coming from somewhere inside the creature. Help me. My blood froze. His face appeared briefly on the creature's shoulder, then vanished beneath the skin. The hooded leader stepped forward. The village needs another guardian. I stared at him. What? He pointed directly at me. The Watcher chose you. A cold realization hit me. The email, the coordinates, the mysterious invitation. The Watcher had lured me here. I wasn't a witness. I was the next offering. The creature slowly extended one gigantic hand toward me. The ground shook with every movement. Thousands of trapped voices whispered my name, calling me, begging me, welcoming me. I backed away. No. The villagers surrounded me, blocking every escape route. The hooded leader smiled. You belong to the Watcher now. The creature's fingers moved closer. Only a few feet away, the air grew colder. The whispers became deafening. I closed my eyes, certain I was about to die. Then bang. A gunshot echoed across the village. The Watcher recoiled. Another gunshot followed. Then another. The villagers panicked. I opened my eyes. The woman who had warned me earlier stood on top of a nearby roof, holding a rifle. She wasn't shooting the Watcher. She was shooting the villagers. Chaos erupted instantly. People screamed. Several fled. The chanting stopped. The ritual was broken. The woman pointed toward the forest. Run! I didn't hesitate. I ran. Behind me, the village exploded into chaos. The Watcher roared. A sound so powerful, it shook the trees. Branches snapped. Windows shattered. The ground cracked open. sprinted into the forest. My lungs burned. My legs felt like they would collapse. But I kept running, because something enormous was chasing me. I could hear it. Trees crashing. Earth shaking. The Watcher was coming. For what felt like hours, I ran through darkness. Eventually I saw sunlight ahead. Dawn. The first rays of morning pierced the trees. As soon as the sunlight touched the forest floor, everything became quiet. No footsteps. No growling. No whispers. Nothing. The pursuit had stopped. I stumbled onto a highway and collapsed. Exhausted, terrified. Alive. Police found me several hours later. I told them everything. The village, the ritual, the creature, the sacrifices. Naturally, they didn't believe me. Still, they agreed to investigate. The next day, officers searched the coordinates. They found nothing. No village. No church. No roads. Only empty forest. According to official records, Black Hollow had been abandoned nearly a century earlier. No residents. No population. Nothing. The village officially didn't exist. I tried proving my story using my camera footage. Every file had been corrupted, every video destroyed, every photograph blank. Except one. A single image remained. One accidental photograph taken during my escape. At first glance, it appeared normal. Just trees. Fog. Morning light. But when I zoomed in, I noticed faces. Hundreds of pale faces hidden among the trees. Watching. Waiting. Smiling. Every single one looked directly at the camera. Months passed. Then a year. Life slowly returned to normal. Or at least I tried convincing myself it had, until the emails started arriving. The first one appeared exactly 1 year later. No sender. No subject. Only GPS coordinates. Attached was the same photograph from the forest, but something had changed. There was one additional face, a new face standing among the others. The young boy from Black Hollow, his terrified expression frozen forever. Part of the collection. Part of the Watcher. Every year since then, another email arrives. Always at exactly 3 o'clock. I'm. Always with new coordinates. Different forests, different abandoned villages, different locations. And every time, the photograph contains one more face, one more victim, one more soul trapped forever. Last night, another email arrived. I haven't opened the attachment yet, because deep down, I already know what I'll find. Another face. Another sacrifice. Another reminder that the Watcher is still out there. Still feeding. Still growing. Still waiting. And lately, I've started hearing whispers in my dreams. Thousands of voices calling my name. The same voices I heard that night. The same voices trapped inside the creature. Every night they sound closer. Every night they become clearer. And this morning, when I looked into my bathroom mirror, for just a split second, I thought I saw another face staring back from behind my own reflection. Smiling. Waiting. As if the Watcher has finally found me. And this time, there may be nowhere left to run. Graduation is a threshold. It is the definitive line between childhood and adulthood. And in folklore, thresholds are dangerous places. They are liminal zones where the veil between what is real and what is impossible becomes dangerously thin. It was midnight on June 10th, the graduation ceremony for Oak Ridge Valley. I was scheduled for 9 a.m. the following morning. The football stadium, surrounded by tall chain-link fences and massive halogen light towers, sat completely empty under a starless sky. 4 friends, Chloe, Dan, Sarah, and Mike, had decided to uphold an unauthorized school tradition. They were going to sneak onto the field, sit on the highest tier of the home bleachers, and watch the sunrise on their final day as high school students. They parked Dan's beat-up sedan behind the gymnasium and easily scaled the back fence. The turf field was damp with midnight dew, and the air was perfectly still. There were no crickets, no wind, just a heavy, expectant silence. They climbed the metal stairs of the bleachers, the metallic clangs of their footsteps seeming unnaturally loud in the quiet stadium. They reached the very top row, looking down at the massive, dark expanse of the football field. "We made it," Chloe smiled, pulling a heavy DSLR camera and a tripod out of her bag. "Let's get the pictures done before the fog rolls in." She set up the tripod a few rows beneath them, angling the camera up so it would capture the 4 friends sitting together with the dark sky behind them. She set the timer to 10 seconds, pressed the button, and scrambled back up the metal stairs to sit between Dan and Mike. "Smile," she whispered. The camera emitted a sharp beep, 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 followed by a blinding burst of white flash. In that split second of illumination, the bleachers were starkly lit. "Let's do a silly one," Dan said, making a face. Chloe ran down, reset the timer, and ran back up. Again, the countdown. Beep, 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 flash. "One more," Chloe said. She went down to the camera, checked the digital preview screen, and froze. "What is it?" Sarah asked from the top row. "Did I blink?" Chloe didn't answer. She was staring at the small LCD screen, her blood turning to ice. In the first photo, the 4 friends were smiling. But behind them, standing on the narrow metal walkway at the very back edge of the highest bleacher row, was a shape. It was incredibly tall, at least 8 feet, and terrifyingly thin. Its limbs were disproportionately long, hanging down past its knees. It was entirely composed of pitch-black shadow, darker than the night sky behind it, except for 2 pale, hollow indentations where eyes should have been. With trembling hands, Chloe clicked to the second photo. The 4 friends were making silly faces, but the entity behind them had moved. It wasn't just standing there anymore. It had bent over, its unnaturally long neck craning forward, its featureless face positioned directly between Dan and Sarah's heads. "Chloe?" Dan called out, his voice tinged with concern. "What's wrong?" Chloe slowly raised her head from the camera and looked up at her friends. Sitting on the metal bench directly behind Dan and Sarah, crouched like a massive predatory spider, was the shadow figure. It was so close that its elongated, shadowy fingers were resting on the metal bench right next to Sarah's hand. Chloe couldn't speak. She could only point. Sarah and Dan turned around. The air around them instantly dropped to freezing. A smell like rotting leaves and stagnant water washed over the bleachers. The shadow entity uncoiled itself, rising up to its full, towering height. It had no face, no mouth, but Chloe could hear a sound radiating from it, a low, oscillating hum like high-voltage electrical wires ready to snap. "Go!" Mike screamed, grabbing Sarah's arm. The 4 teenagers scrambled wildly down the metal bleachers. They didn't bother with the stairs. They vaulted over the benches, slipping and bruising their shins on the cold aluminum dot above them. The entity moved. It didn't step. It slid gracefully over the metal rows, its long limbs stretching and contorting in unnatural angles. And as it moved, it made a sound, the heavy echoing boom. Boom. Boom of massive, invisible boots stomping on the aluminum bleachers. Chloe grabbed her camera by the strap as she bolted past the tripod, abandoning the metal stand. They hit the turf field and ran faster than they ever had in their lives, sprinting in a blind panic toward the chain-link fence. Suddenly, the massive halogen stadium lights directly above them surged with power. They flickered violently, casting strobe-like, disorienting shadows across the field. In the flashing light, Chloe looked back. The towering shadow figure was bounding across the turf after them, covering 10 yards with every unnatural stride. Over the fence. Now, Dan yelled. They threw themselves at the chain link, scrambling up the metal mesh. Mike tore his jeans and sliced his palm on the barbed wire at the top, but he didn't care. They tumbled over the other side, hitting the concrete parking lot hard. They sprinted to Dan's car. He fumbled with his keys, his hands shaking so violently he dropped them twice. Clang. The heavy metallic sound came from the fence they had just climbed. Dan jammed the key into the ignition, the engine sputtering to life. He threw the car into reverse, spinning the tires, and slammed on the headlights. The high beams cut through the darkness, illuminating the chain-link fence. Standing on the other side, gripping the wire mesh with long, shadowy fingers, was the entity. It stood perfectly still in the harsh headlights. As Dan threw the car into drive and sped out of the parking lot, the entity slowly raised one long, spindly arm, waving a slow, mocking goodbye. They graduated the next morning. They sat in the bright morning sun, wearing their caps and gowns, surrounded by hundreds of cheering parents. But none of them smiled. Chloe kept her eyes fixed firmly on the ground for the next week. Before they all left for different colleges, none of them slept well, because every night, between the hours of midnight and 3 a.m., all 4 of them reported the same phenomenon. When they looked out their bedroom windows, standing perfectly still under the flickering street lights on their respective streets, was an 8-foot-tall shadow with impossibly long limbs, waiting patiently for them in the dark. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. The architecture of a school is designed to absorb the psychic energy of thousands of adolescents. For 9 months of the year, these buildings are saturated with extreme human emotion. The paralyzing anxiety of final exams, the devastating heartbreak of teenage romance, the suffocating pressure of peer judgment, and the profound, life-altering grief of tragedies that occasionally strike a student body. These emotions do not dissipate into thin air. They sink into the concrete floors, the metal lockers, and the painted cinder-block walls. When the final bell rings and the students abandon the building for the summer, the sudden silence acts as a catalyst. The residual, trapped energy requires a vessel, and in the absence of the living, the dead step forward to claim it. Ms. Miller never taught at Westfield High again. She submitted her resignation the following Monday, packed her apartment, and moved 2 states away. She now teaches online courses, refusing to step foot inside a physical classroom. She still cannot be in a room alone when a radiator hisses, terrified it will sound like the wet. labored breathing of a drowning boy. Mark, Leo, and Sam never spoke of what happened in the East Wing. They went to the police, attempting to report a fire hazard, but the authorities found nothing. The heavy iron door they had jammed shut remained sealed, but the handle was warped and melted beyond repair. Sometimes when Mark closes his eyes, he can still feel the blistering heat radiating off the rusted metal, and he can hear the awful, metallic clinking of a janitor's keys slowly ascending a set of stairs. As for the four friends and the Bleachers, their bond was shattered by the trauma of that night. They stopped talking entirely by the middle of July. Chloe developed the photographs, printing them in her dark room. She keeps them locked in a heavy steel lockbox under her bed. She refuses to destroy them, driven by a deep, terrifying intuition that if she destroys the paper binding the shadow to the photographs, the entity will finally be free to step inside her house. The end of the school year is universally celebrated as a time of liberation and joy. It is a time for students to shed their academic burdens and step out into the warmth of the summer sun. But as the heavy double doors slam shut and the locks are turned, the hallways are surrendered to the dark. So, if you ever find yourself walking past an empty, darkened high school in the dead of summer, and you see a flicker of movement behind a second-story window, or hear the faint, echoing sound of footsteps on the bleachers, do not stop to investigate. Keep walking, because school may be out for the summer, but some things never graduate, and they are always looking for a new classmate to join them in the dark.